We are back and ready to get into our next match of Hearthstone for the day. But before we do that, just to note, RDU did not miss lethal. I did it wrong. I just assumed you can negate some ordering and placement of cards in hand, but still, very, very close game. Almost got there, just being one mana off if you look at it that way. But still, that is means that SilverName did take the win and is going to be going into this rematch versus Swidz. One we had at the start of the day where Swidz took the win, but it does mean these players are going to have to play it out again. A double warrior ban on either side, and again, we're going to have to see if this mage from him can get the job done, or if Switz's druid is going to reign supreme.
I fully accept RDU's salty tweet if it is incoming, but I'm sure he's more concerned about the heartbreaking loss he just took than what a pair of dumbcasters were saying about the end of his game. But SilverName has now got to carry that momentum into this matchup because he really did have the run of the cards that series. It's kind of what I was leading into as we went to the break there after the series. He was just flying cards off the top of his deck with the power of creation in the mage game, everything he drew in the hunter, and the absolute nuts demon hunter curve in game number 2. But last time around, this is now a rematch from our opener of the day. It does seem like the day has flown past just as much as the perfect card has flown off the top of SilverName's deck. But we are now here again. And SilverName is going to have to reverse his fortunes. And it really was down to that crucial point between the Druid and the Demon Hunter where we would expect that to be a free win for the Demon Hunter, as it has been in so many series. That went the other way last time around, with Swidz's Starfall inclusion paying off huge for him, and meaning he was able to kind of reverse the series in an unfavorable position by picking up that win in an unfavorable.
Yeah, and just to give you guys a reminder, basically the winner of this match will go into play tomorrow in the top 4 to decide who gets that world spot. But also, after this match, we do have our relegation match to play out between none other than Hunter Ace and Heist, which is going to be insane after this one. So honestly, just make sure you stay tuned once this match is over, because there is maybe one of the most important matches of the whole season going to be playing out after this. But for now, let's go into Swidz versus SilverName. On the line of these players, the good news is neither of these players are up for that relegation. That's all been pretty much done dusted for these guys. It is now about focusing on those positives. Whoever wins continues to be with a chance to book a spot at Worlds. Whoever loses, better luck next time in Grandmasters.
Okay, Swidz looking happy with his mulligan, and rightly so. Just keeps hold of the Ferrocat Seal Fate, very much agreed. Did not have the stealth minion to really be paying off that Greyheart Sage, so throws it away, and is met. Ooh, and is met with the vastly superior backstab pickup, and now the Spy Mistress as well is just absolutely insane. I've talked at length about how effective these stealth minions are at picking things apart, and there's yet another one.
You possess.
Hello? Hello? Swidz is the BM now? Is Swidz just my new favourite player? Is that what's happening here, Raven?
Evil.
Yeah, and I think it's also coming off the back where he's just feeling good, right? Obviously, this is an elimination match in the group, but Swidz's season has been very, very positive. And also, just again, this opening hand definitely helps, right? Game 1 into a series you really want to win. Your opening hand looks strong. Yeah, I'd be feeling it too.
Can I just ask why this was a Ferrocat and not a Spy Mistress on turn 1, though? I guess he's seeing a kept card that wasn't played on turn 1, so he's leaning towards Umberwing, perhaps, and he would rather have the Umberwing in play against that board state and play the Spy Mistress later. It gets punished in this scenario. It gets punished in this scenario by the big Battle Fiend, but maybe it's justifiable. Like, in that case, his read was correct, right? If that's actually what his read was, because the Umberwing was the kept card from SilverName.
Yeah, and also as well, although it's a punish against the Battle Fiend, the Spy Mistress can still take it down, right? And also with the help of that Seal Fate, it's even like, unless the Battle Fiend trades, which I think Swidz might be happy with anyway, it either trades and gets killed by Spy Mistress, or doesn't trade and gets killed by Seal Fate Dagger. So still, I think it's set up to be in a good scenario no matter what. But the second Battle Fiend and the Umberwing is going to prove a bit more of a problem for Swidz to deal with.
Yeah, can still pick it all apart with the Seal Fate. Just leave the Umberwing tokens on the board, which are not too threatening at this point. If he ends up having to re-dagger on the next turn because his hand looks a little bit awkward, then that just fits in fine with cleaning those up. And SilverName is already looking kind of gassed out as the Demon Hunter. Obviously, that doesn't last for long because of the amount of card draw that they do play in the deck. Like, we've got some disconnect issues here, but again, this should not be a big issue. SilverName, as long as this isn't a long-term problem. Oh, it looks like Swidz is actually the one that disconnected. And if his webcam dropped, I take all that back. We might have a slightly more serious issue on our hands, because that suggests some internet problems on his end. And so hopefully that is just a temporary blip and we can get back to it as soon as possible.
Yep, we'll have to see how that one checks out, as we'll just have the admins, of course, just try and see what's going on with whoever's internet. Because at first it looked like it was SilverName's, because he reacted instantly to it was, oh, what's going on here? But yeah, with the camera drop, it looks like it could well be Swidz. So we'll find out what's going on there. But already, as you mentioned, it did look like a bit of a close game, because SilverName did have Warglaves, which is a fantastic tool, but also had to get there safely, which was looking a little bit more dicey, because even though it would have used a lot of Swidz's resources to clean up that board, it does mean that there's still, as we can see now, right back in the game, it does mean that there would be a post-Seal Fate Lackey and Shadow Step, right? And depending on which Lackey you get, well, that Shadow Step's going to get some work done. So we are back in. Sorry about the slight delay there, but as ever, the lovely reconnect feature does its work once again.
No real sequencing concerns here, I don't think. Either way, you're going to take 2 damage with your face if you end up swinging into a Battle Fiend.
Oh!
Wow, the hold.
Probably because of the Eviscerate, right? He knows you can just Eviscerate it next turn.
It's a pretty significant health investment into trying to get this swing turn, though, especially when those 1/1s are hanging around on the board. So your Spy Mistress is a very long-term payoff here. It's going to be some time before this Spy Mistress gets any work done if this Battle Fiend is getting eviscerated.
Yeah, and plays like this are what really throw me off when we talk about Stealth Rogue, because let's forget that this is a Skyver now, another stealth minion. But what is the payoff for the Spy Mistress? Was Swidz really waiting to just draw the Greyheart Sage? Was that really what it was worthwhile? All this health that he's actually, all damage that he's ended up taking?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't really have a satisfactory answer for you. He has, again created the scenario where Warglaves is not the big punish on turn 5, as we saw in the previous series. But that's not the reality, because this Spy Mistress, it's not a matter of stealth or unstealth. It's a matter of stealth or dead. It wouldn't have been a target. It wouldn't have been a target for the Warglaves either way.
Still, though, the Miscreant looking pretty good as a pickup there for Swidz. Opens up some more options. Probably is after the Titanic Lackey at this point in the game, just to at least force SilverName to make some trades outside of Arcane, of course. But now to get hold of it, even with the Shadow Step, means that SilverName's got a fairly straightforward target to aim at here.
And now he's just consolidated board, and he's using the Spy Mistress to race. So far, it's got in 3 damage. If you want to look at it in that terms, it's a good chance SilverName now has to smack it, which means it would have got in 6, which has already outpaced the Eviscerate that he used to replace it. In that equation, though, you've got to also factor in the 3 extra damage he took by leaving the Battle Fiend up for an additional turn. If we're talking purely about a race scenario.
Yeah, from SilverName now, he can go for that skull first, then decide what he wants to do with this weapon, right? Because he doesn't necessarily have to trade this weapon in. If he thinks he can actually post skull, get more damage out of it, but he's actually got hero power. Let's his hero power, use it up, then re-equip.
Looking that way, yep.
Really interesting play. I think I would have just always gone for the skull that turn, and I wouldn't have even overly considered this play, but although, it makes sense, he clears the board and re-equips a Warglaves, but I just wondered what the skull would have unlocked for him.
Oh, big shield of Galakrond off the top here. Racist Lackey just for the maximum power in play. Oh, the Millhouse!
Literal maximum power in play.
Oh my goodness. SilverName now, by leaving the 1 open, does give himself Kane opportunities off the top. That is a pretty insane pull from the skull.
Chaos Strike going to make him able to clean up this Shield of Galakrond in a most efficient manner, and then he can actually just Frozen Shadow Weaver the Millhouse Mana Storm and just go face instead with this final 5 damage. Insane! Final 6 damage, excuse me.
More or less out of damage now at this point. But I don't think Swidz has effective clears for this board state now that the Shadow Step has gone down. Flick plus Rush Lackey. Flick plus Rush is no good. Flick plus Shoot is no good. Let's find the backstab now, though.
I never lie, but I never tell the truth.
What insane face slackers we've seen in this game.
Yep. That's actually kind of a huge low roll off the Faceless Lackey to get a 1-attack minion. Because it means the Rush Lackey can now not fight the 4-3 with the minion that's come out of the Faceless.
You can Van Cleef and Rush Lackey, though. Would leave a 2-2 up.
Too soon.
Oh! 1 damage. There's 1 damage.
And there it is. And the emote just to finish it off. Swidz started it, but SilverName is finishing it with this Gladebound Adept, cleaning this game up. Pretty close one, pretty crazy one. And again, you've just got to wonder, I'm not saying this is wrong or right, but the Spy Mistress usage just interested me greatly in that game. Swidz could have just cleanly killed the Battle Fiend, saved himself a little bit of damage. The Spy Mistress did help push some damage later on. But yeah, it's just very interesting to me to see how players utilize this Spy Mistress, because it isn't just a straight up 1-drop, is it? You know, there's the Greyheart Sage things with it, and then there's also just having it as stealth and, like you say, dodging those Warglaives.
Yeah, I think if I was, playing on ladder and not really thinking super hard about my plays, I just would have jammed the Spy Mistress on 1, and then not really thought about, Umberwing implications or whatever else. The fact that was actually an on-point read, if that's what was happening, I guess we commend Swidz for that part, that, he played the smaller minion first because he was expecting Umberwing to come down, and his 3-1 does nothing in that scenario anyway. So that part I'm on board with. I'm still a little bit confused about the lack of trading, the additional damage taken. I kind of, I at least see the line where he then consolidates it on board, and maybe if there is a world where there isn't a Warglaives on turn 5, that's very, very different, because he then actually takes the board and invests 3 extra health into doing so, which might have just paid him out and allowed him to race in the long run. So maybe that is what he was going for. Maybe he was scared of Gladebound Adept long term, so he wanted to have that 3-1 in play to be able to challenge Gladebound as best as he possibly could once he used up his Eviscerate and didn't have that answer anymore. So there's certainly reasons that you can justify, but it was very much against my instincts as to play that game.
Yeah, pretty interesting overall, but SilverName going to get a win with his Demon Hunter. I think generally expecting that to be, his strongest deck in his lineup. Does mean he is going to have this Hunter left and his Mage to get a win with, but looks like we're going to go to this Highlander Hunter first for SilverName to go up against whatever Swidz chooses. And again, personally, just not a massive fan of this list. I don't think the secrets achieve enough to warrant, 3 slots in the deck, which I think there's a lot of powerful cards you can include in Highlander Hunter right now. It does mean he's lacking on some other tech choices, like the Boom Pistol Bully. It does have the Ooze in there, but no Nag Grand Slam, so not just down one of the late game choices that a lot of hunters are using right now.
Yeah, it's certainly a big question mark. This does look a bit outdated at this point. I haven't actually checked the ladder statistics recently, but the ladder stats did report that this was the stronger build of the deck up until a certain point. But I've kind of picked apart that same argument in the Rogue camp, where the ladder stats also reported that Secret Rogue was the strongest build of the deck for the longest time, while I was kind of in the opposite camp. Secrets are just good on ladder. Again, I was saying earlier, if I'm just jamming a ladder game and not really paying full attention to what I'm doing and just, playing some Hearthstone and watching a stream in the background or watching some Netflix or whatever else, I'm not going to think about what secrets do. I'm just going to play my turn, right? And that's kind of what most people run into when they're dealing with secrets. So I think, those cards do tend to get a little bit inflated on ladder stats, and I think we've seen a pretty clear consensus in this competitive metagame and actually most competitive metagames, that secrets have a lot less value in competitive play than they do on ladder.
Yeah, there's very few moments where they're actually super powerful, and that is more reliant on just what the secret is, not the fact that it's a secret, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, Cat Trick we saw incredibly powerful because guess what? A 4/2 for 2 mana is a very strong card. So very much reliant on what those secrets are to see how strong they are, but not really looking too great when they're playing just standard ones in most lists for now. But Swidz is going to be on that rogue once again, that stealth package, and again just very interested to see how these early game interactions play out, because one good thing again against for Spy Mistress is it just deals with a lot of the, if not all of the early threats the Hunter can play down, so you end up just 1-for-1 in them, and if you end up doing that against Hunter for a while, you probably end up on the better end of the outcome there.
Yet another reason to play Stealth Rogue, by the way. An even 10,000 dust. Is that not the most pleasing thing you've ever seen in your life, Raven?
It's fine for me because, I have those cards, but I think 10,000 dust is a fairly expensive Hearthstone deck, right?
But it's such a round number.
Okay. So you'd like 100,000 dust as well?
Sure, yeah.
that could make?
Yeah.
Okay. Look forward to seeing that at some point in the future. Just a full 30 legendaries that somehow cost even more than normal.
We got
maybe
like
one day.
fifth of the way there with some Highlander mage lists, right? That were
Right.
pushing 20k or just over 20k.
Yeah, pretty crazy overall. Let's go into the next game, though. It's Swidz on this rogue, of course, as we did just break down, going up against this Hunter from SilverName. Again, bit of a strange matchup. This does... Oh, okay. Well, that's a good opening for SilverName.
Yeah, and that is
Backstab is there, but nothing
miserable,
else.
miserable opening from Swidz.
Yeah.
This might just be one of those hands where your hand is so bad you need to stretch out the one good resource that you have. Yeah, Swidz just kind of agrees here. Says I can't just backstab this 2/2 and then just have no plays for the rest of the game.
I'm actually a little bit surprised, though.
Oh,
honestly.
immediately rewarded. Immediately, Raven.
Okay, if that's the draw, then fantastic. My point that was going to happen was there are limited plays coming up that Backstab actually is going to be that good against.
Yeah.
The Fairy Dragon comes down, can't do that. If the Dormant Minion comes down, can't Backstab that. So I was worried that if he held it and he starts taking 2, 4, 6 damage from this battle mage, then that's just going to be a huge problem. But of course, with the Miscreant pickup, it was absolutely insane and worked out very well for Swidz.
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, I was actually considering, for those same reasons, just kind of
Always face.
every time. I was considering hold backstab and just poke the 2/1, because at least then, sure, you take 6, but you get rid of it, and you don't have to do the backstab of shame later, where you end up backstabbing it anyway, even though you were trying to hold on to it. That Doomsayer was actually pretty nuts, huh?
Being able to just clean up the Felmar is just huge, right? It's just a massive problem normally. And even if, look in the worlds where that lived, yes, Swidz could kill it with Seal Fate, but he tanks 5 more. It's just an insane amount of damage.
Right. Coin Varanus.
Yeah, I think so. Double 3-drop.
Yeah, using coin here does feel kind of illegal because of your hand. Like Dinotamer Brand, Dragon Queen, Alexstrasza hand, and you're using coin. That seems sketchy on first glance. But the curve still works, exactly as you said, because you can go coin Varanus into double 3-drop, into Dinotamer Brand. By that time, you'll have found something to do on turn 8, right? And then you can just curve into Dragon Queen.
Even Bone Wraith still works out at some level of damage because it's so awkward to get rid of.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, there's 5 free face damage for Swidz at some point in this game.
I'll try and find the Goblin Lackey for the rush, but I'm guessing didn't get it by the speed in which he locked in that Kobold, yep.
Oof.
Just tanking 7?
Giant oof. Yep.
To my side.
This is already starting to look quite bad, isn't it, for
It
Swidz?
is, yeah.
Because there's just more damage where that came from.
He might want to consider holding this attack. Obviously, he double clears the lackeys here if he does attack, which is a concern. Obviously, lackeys are always a threat when Togwaggle is in play, but you know that your opponent's hand is full of lackeys anyway, and it doesn't really doesn't really change the breakpoints on whether or not they can play Togwaggle. And if Togwaggle comes down, you're just killing them with Dino Tamer Bran anyway.
I thought the conversation was go face or just not attack, so I didn't think you were considering putting the hammer into a lackey. For all the reasons you outlined, for the anti-Tog play, but for me, it's just go face or hold, is the question I would raise. And I like SilverName's answer.
Yep.
Yep, technically, sets up lethal. Galakrond obviously going to put a stop to that necessarily, but still. I do like the swing there from SilverName, even though he always end up playing a dragon next turn. And it's this is kind of a win-win situation with Rot Nest here, honestly.
Yes, this is kind of what I was leading to about the swing or no swing conversation before we got distracted by face damage or no face damage, is if the game does extend, not attacking on that turn means that you might be able to make a more important attack on a following turn where you're still not playing a dragon, right? Because I was looking at Dino Tamer Bran turns, but obviously Siamat ends up being the turn here for the big power play. But either way, it means that, you know, SilverName's kind of locked out of attacks from now on. It's kind of the same logic as like Eaglehorn bow usage, right? Where a lot of people will just use up the first attack and then be unable to attack after that because they're waiting to get value out of their secrets.
Part of the reason I actually liked Rot Nest that turn. You can hero power. If the Rot Nest hits the 1/1, you swing and Zigzar into the taunt. If it hits the taunt, you swing and Zigzar into face with a hero power. That's 7 damage.
Sure.
I don't know. I thought the Rot Nest was really good there.
From nothing, power.
Whoop. Not looking too good for Swidz.
No.
Not really got a way to do this unless he gets an extremely powerful Witchy Lackey.
Yeah, I'm just trying to run through my mind the outs and what mana slots they lie in and like how you're going to find a solution to this problem right now. And I think the answer is you probably just don't, and you should play your strongest turn instead, which is exactly what Swidz has ended up doing. SilverName going to say thank you very much.
Yep, to the end of the game as SilverName takes the win there with the Hunter. Swidz insta concede, and as he now goes 0-2 down against SilverName there. And again, although of course SilverName was in a great spot and had some really powerful turns, even with Swidz getting that Doomsay earlier on, but still, I do think the Rot Nest would have unlocked a bit more of a consistent damage output for SilverName there, which is something to consider when you're getting so close versus Rogue. They can turn it round with just a draw of Galakrond, right? The health on the armor gain, along with just the potential board flip turns of the 0 mana cards. You've not got all the time in the world against Rogue, so it was just a point, but regardless, SilverName did get the win, and we're moving swiftly on into game number 3. SilverName only having his Mage left, going up against Switz's Druid.
Yeah, and these players absolutely not hanging around. They're playing their games at a lightning fast pace. They're also just queuing up their next matchup at a lightning fast pace as well. There's no time.
Can you let me finish my point before you cue the next game, please? Jeez.
No time to be breaking anything down in the interim here. They're just straight back into it.
And the matchup, honestly, we've not really covered too much in Grandmasters, right?
Yeah, early weeks, I think this was a matchup we were talking about because it was sort of quite tightly contested and had different opinions on each side. But since then, yeah, Mage has fallen off. Druid fell off in Europe as well, even though it stayed pretty popular in other regions. So we've kind of been dodging this matchup for quite some time.
Your wish is my suggestion.
Zephyrus just coming down here, going for the old wild growth, I imagine, especially with this hand as well. Just being able to get there a little bit quicker on Reno could be the difference. Meanwhile, though, Swidz does have access to an overgrowth. Not yet, of course. But still, the fact he has overgrowth, the fact he has a Mount Seller, and a good set of cards here means that he could get there pretty early in itself. So although SilverName's going to ramp, Swidz is going to be right there with him.
Sands of time run low.
Ooh, okay. That is a big positive for SilverName. Because there are two potential ways you can win this matchup. First off, you can just do the mage thing of just cheating out big threats nice and early, and then Druid really struggles to deal with that. And the other one is you just play the attrition game, and you're able to wipe out a few boards, Reno the Soul of the Forest board, and then, you know, presumably find some way to scramble and deal with the Ysera dragons. But when that last point is no longer part of the equation, suddenly things start to get a little bit easier.
Yep, they do. And this second overgrowth is going to make things incredibly difficult, though, for SilverName, because it's just so much mana available for Swidz. And like I said, him already having that Mount Seller meant that the Fungal Fortunes earlier on was, although he did obviously get rid of the Ysera, it's still relatively safe because he always has something to do in that late game with those cheap spells.
Right.
And most importantly, getting a board down before Reno is a thing, as in the Amazing Reno is huge, because that's the one lockout, right? You can make the craziest board in the world, but if it's into a Reno turn, then you're in trouble no matter what.
Yeah, the Bog Beam off the top here is huge, though, because there's a pretty good chance that these minions being left alive, plus the Relicologist in hand, for SilverName would be able to pick the majority of this apart. Now, not so much.
Crystal Power, just to heal 5, not that I think Swidz is expecting to die anytime soon, but dealing 2 to the Kartut doesn't really achieve that much, so may as well take the health when you can get it.
Yeah. So currently 10, 12, 15, 23 health on the opponent's side of the board, so Reno is doing nothing. Reno will almost certainly not kill the Mount Seller is the big problem.
Right.
Not getting the full clear, so he has to go fishing for something else to do here instead. Cone of Cold is stall potential, but he has so long to stall until he's able to hit that Amazing Reno for the actual full clear.
Conjures the Mount Seller, so he can't make a bigger board.
There must be a way.
Cone of Cold actually does a really good job here, right? Because it actually not only stalls some damage, you being hit by the minions, but also locks out a chunk of the board, right? Okay, you've got a Mount Seller, but if 3 minions can't attack, and the spaces are still going to be used up, then it slows down the turn significantly, I think, from Swidz.
We're gonna have some fun.
The Kartut does give him a layer of protection, which means he doesn't necessarily have to go for the Cone of Cold play this turn. But maybe next turn he can use it to just slow this down, and although it's not the ultimate, you know, it's not the Frost Nova, it's not the Blizzard, it's close to the next best thing.
Yeah, the problem is just the size this board is going to get again, so Cone of Cold is not necessarily going to be doing anything, even with the cards that we can see, the Overflow and the Wild Growth, and then the excess mana being pulled from.
Our tombs.
Means that this board state is going to get messy, but he's going to use the hero power to make sure he's not giving Overflow value to his opponent, which doesn't make sense. Actually, there is a chance that Cone of Cold could be fairly impactful here, depending on what these draws are. Nope. Or too big.
Sands of time run low.
Yep. Do you like res wins for the minion here? Yeah, I like this. Just go as wide as possible.
Sure.
As I said earlier, Swidz will really want to make the threatening board and put forward the most damage as early as possible before that Reno can even come down and negate all of the hard work here. So it's a lot. Just going to give a triple check here, but yep, SilverName is not running a Blizzard. One of the cards that pretty consistently got cut quite a while ago from Highlander Mage, even though I personally like it a lot. Did see it get cut out of most players' lists, which means going for this Tortol into Blizzard isn't possible.
So Cone of Cold does theoretically leave him alive to 1 Savage Roar here. The most he can cone is 10 with this positioning. Yeah, it's also the same if he does it on the Weaponized Wasp, but that also kills an Iron Beak Owl and leaves a board space. So I like this better. So this way he's alive to 1 Savage Roar, and then on the following turn, although as you correctly pointed out, he can't Tortollan for Blizzard, he can Tortollan for Frost Nova, which then finds him that 1 additional turn that he needs to get over to the Reno. So yeah, I like this line of play from SilverName. Because right now Savage Roar would be 13 plus 10, 23 plus Hero Power, 24. Just do it.
Was it? So there's 2 levels here, though, right? Because there's also, I would argue, a reason to use that excess mana to see if you can go fishing for Soul of the Forest, potentially as well.
And also, actually, I'm stupid. He's developed Mana Saber, so he doesn't even need to buy the 1 extra turn. The Cone of Cold was actually all he needed to get the full clear here. I was so busy like counting where you Cone of Cold and how much Savage Roar did that I just completely didn't notice he had Mana Saber in his hand.
It's just a really big spy mistress, right?
Yeah.
But still, the big problem here, I guess, for SilverName is, yes, he can Reno, but with that Savage Roar, it does only put him to 10. So if Swidz heavily redevelops and there isn't another answer, then he's still looking to be in trouble. This is by no means SilverName becoming safe in this game.
No, for sure. Especially because the next board just comes immediately on the follow-up from Swidz as well. There's just no rest for the Wicked from SilverName's side.
So many.
And again, this is a benefit of keeping the excess mana because he can make just that little bit more of a big amount sell turn.
Yep.
I supply only the finest.
And still draw a card, but still he can't set up the Soul of the Forest with this. I guess he could do with the Innovate.
And here is the big problem, though, because now not only is there a Zixor Prime going into the deck if Amazing Reno doesn't take care of it, but he's also had to Amazing Reno the non-Soul of the Forest board, which is normally the one thing that you do want to be doing. So Swidz still has that giant push to come in the future, even if SilverName can continually lock this board state out for multiple turns with freeze effects.
Can go for Malagos into freeze as well. That is an option. But again, the problem is I'm not sure... Oh, okay, well, let's be honest. SilverName's looking for a box to win this game, isn't he? Because even if he freezes, even if he delays, how does he actually kill Swidz? How does he actually clear this board?
Right.
Outside of a box, realistically, it's not going to happen, is it?
SilverName certainly right now counting spells in his deck, considering the odds of Tortollan odds versus the odds of Malagos.
Oh, there it is.
Pretty easily calculable thing in this situation. And yeah, SilverName with the smile is going to bet this game at least on a box.
Oh, 1 mana roll.
And it is not going well so far.
No. Wow. Generated too many minions there. Yeah, that doesn't look like it's going to be enough, does it? There's the concede there from SilverName. Does lose the Mage versus the Druid matchup, but that did go very, very well for Swidz. Unfortunately, we couldn't see Swidz's camera. I really would love to have seen his reaction to the Tortolan box just as it happened, because, again, like I said, it was pretty much the only way he could have lost that game. It's due to a really crazy Yogg box. But still, I think SilverName's still going to feel okay. It is his mage that he has left over, but still, I still think that's a tough matchup, as you said, because he didn't get to Reno the Soul of the Forest. It would always be difficult to clear the follow-up turns because SilverName never actually got on the board, did he? Didn't get to have the deep freeze down early enough, didn't get the power of creation. So he was always just on the back foot trying to fend off the waves of threats from Swidz, and it just wasn't going to be good enough. But now, Swidz has Demon Hunter and Swidz has Rogue left over, so two pretty strong decks. But we did see SilverName beat down Demon Hunter with his mage in the previous series pretty handily.
We did, but we also saw Swidz come away pretty comfortably with this exact matchup in their opening series, coming down to that creative way that Swidz chose to pick up the Dream Lethal at the end of the game through the Violet Wardens from SilverName's Power of Creation. That did lie heavily on a Togwaggle scheme hitting the Kronks, though, in Swidz deck and creating those multiple copies for him to rely on in the late game.
Yeah, and I wonder if we're just going to see a repeat, honestly. It's always tough to find out or try and work on like a strong plan against Mage because the games can go so wildly different based on if they get access to some ramp, if they get a big Dragoncaster off. But so far, yeah, Hort indeed. There's a Praise Galakron ×2, Shadow Step, and a Van Cleef. You've got to start considering are things going to start going wrong too early for SilverName here?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see a repeat. We might see a repeat of the result, but I think we're going to see a very different game of Hearthstone than the one we saw last time.
Oh, even a Skyvateer now. Able to get these Praise Galakrons cooking.
Yeah, it's probably not the one he's looking for. He can keep on digging with the Praise, trying to find a premium Shadow Step lackey.
Yeah, and honestly, depending on how much value he puts on the Skyvateer, you can just evolve that, right? It's not like it's unplayable here with the Van Cleef turn.
Yeah, it is just a 2-3 right now, though. 1-3 into a 3-drop, significant upgrade. 2-3 into a 3-drop, probably not so much.
Yeah, but +2/+2 on your Van Cleef.
Yep.
Okay. Incredible.
Luckily,
the rarest of Albatross right now.
Yeah, fortunately for SilverName, however, his Imprisoned Observer does not kill the Albatross, and he is able to just get immediate use out of his Zephyrus here before he has to worry about any of this Albatross nonsense. What is he thinking about?
He could double... he could double Ray of Frost, ping, and then next turn attack with the 4/5 and ping the Van Cleef and save the Zephyrus. The problem is, the Albatross switches that off, right? Yep. So it doesn't really achieve... If that was any other card but an Albatross, there is a reason to say, oh, I think Zephyrus is going to be better, and I think over the course of 2 turns I can actually kill off this Van Cleef and hold the Zephyrus. That is powerful. But because it's exactly Albatross, I do agree, I think this just has to be done right now. Considering the Master Spell to deactivate the Albatross, but it won't work, you can't play it this turn, right?
Right.
And then Swidz will always trade off this Albatross ASAP.
That Albatross very nearly ruined SilverName's entire day there. Luckily, he was able to get the Zephyrus out. He does now, of course, have Dragon Queen Alexstrasza in his hand, which is deactivated. But the fact he was able to get immediate Zephyrus value is at least a small blessing for him.
Yep. And there's still plenty of time to actually draw the Albatross, right?
Yeah.
It's not like he wants to play Dragon Queen next. Well, I'm sure he does want to play Dragon Queen next turn if he could. But you know what I mean. He isn't planning to because he can't. So there's still a fair few turns of card draw just to be able to get towards that Albatross and reactivate the Highlander effect.
Yeah, holding on to the ice barrier, always a good decision in these scenarios where you don't need it immediately. Keep your hand size nice and high. You play Twilight Drake in your deck, for one example.
Still, though, Swidz, although looking a bit dry on resources, this Sky Batir is going to draw him a card, but most importantly, he can just get this Togwaggle treasure next turn, which means the turn after, he can use it to refill the hand with some quite cheap spells.
Yep.
Or cards, should I say, to be more accurate. But still,
Hey, would you
Twilight
look
Drake.
at that? Is Twilight Drake's one bigger? Love it when a plan comes together.
Swid's just thinking, worth the test. Okay, well, if it's... Oh, okay, he's actually trading in. I thought he was going to just test it with the most damage to face first, but I guess Swidz isn't exactly on the rush plan, is he?
Right. Just wants to clean up the Twilight Drake as much as he can, but he also wants to deal with the Flame Ward now, because he doesn't want his new wave of minions being impacted by the Flame Ward if it were to come down. Gets the news that it's Ice Barrier, and those attacks were, quote, wasted, but I think still better to play around the worst case in that spot.
Yep. Really interesting dragon choice there, because although Onyxia and Nosdormu aren't the most powerful things in the world, the fact he's gone for Wand, and you want to Wand into, say, Galakrond and more value cards,
Yeah.
it means you are normally... Where you want to be is further away from wanting to play Deathwing, which means this Deathwing might just sit in his hand for quite a while. He's not really playable. Whereas even though not what you want to do, and Onyxia is just a playable card, right?
Yeah. The cards that he draws all cost 0, though. A lot of them do generate more cards that don't cost 0.
That's my point, right? If you look at Greyheart Sage, if you look at Galakrond, there are cards that...
Galakrond would cost 0 and then also draw 4 more cards that cost 0. So that's not really an argument. But yeah, Greyheart Sage is a problem. Evil Miscreant is a lackey. Evil Miscreant is a lackey. Evil Miscreant is a problem.
We're going loopy today, honestly. We're going loopy. I was more meaning, though, just the time, right? Because even though you're drawing a lot of zero-cost cards, you're not necessarily playing them all in the same couple of turns.
Right.
So it just means that this Deathwing isn't going to be active for quite a while unless there is a true emergency, which I guess is the reason it was picked up, right? In case something goes terribly wrong.
And it's not anyway, right? Like, again, to go back to your SilverName phrasing, it's not like he's intending to play it soon anyway, because he just can't. He has 8 mana, so he still has plenty of time to be burning everything else out of his hand right now.
Oof. Okay. There's not much high-impact cards left for this Tortolan, is there? With Deep Freeze, Power of Creation, and the box in hand.
Nope. There is a Rolling Fireball, a Frost Nova, a Flame Ward, and an Arcane Breath left.
I guess the good news is that at worst, it's getting close to just being an 8-mana 5/5 that casts Frost Nova, which is pretty good to have reliably. At least.
One stab, mini kill.
So far, though, this is the kind of board Rogue makes at this point in the game, right? Just some stuff. Not particularly threatening in itself, but one Kronks, one big buff, maybe the odd Eviscerate here, and suddenly you're just dead. And that's what's weird about Rogue right now. They don't put any particular high-threat single minions outside of Van Cleef and, I guess, Quest Adventurers, if that's the list you run in. But they just consistently have boards of stuff. And when the boards are always exist, it starts to just pile on that chip damage over turns, right?
Does drop the Tortolan. I believe that was 4 spells I listed before, so there was a chance that he would whiff on the Frost Nova. Even then, he would find Flame Ward. He would then be able to panic with Ray of Frost afterwards. He could just pick Rolling Fireball and roll the dice. Even if he were to hit the unlikely scenario where Frost Nova didn't come up.
Who in their right mind hides blue?
Super weird play there with Miscreant, Flick, a Rush Lackey, and a Faceless Corruptor on board. It's Skyvatir that gets Shadow Stepped just to activate the Grey Art stage, of course, and keep that card draw rolling. Completely correct, but it just looks funny more than anything. And now, I guess Reno's going to say hello.
Yeah, certainly looking that way. Unless he really, really, really wants to stall one more turn for some reason, but I don't really see why. Denies a card draw, denies a card 2
In
death
the
rattle.
shadows. A cruel fate awaits you in the ashes. Oh, up to no good? Me too.
And again, like I said, not singular threatening minions, but Rogue just always makes stuff.
Yep.
And you got to be able to either fend it off or end the game quickly to be able to stop it.
Swidz just absolutely blasting through his deck right now. He hasn't even picked up his 4 card draws from the Galakron just yet because that's buried in the bottom. So he's going to be marching...
and Galakron.
Right. He's going to be marching towards fatigue sooner rather than later in this position. Dragon Queen
Maybe with that
Albatross
note-
still not active because of those 2 Albatross still remaining in the deck.
Ooh.
Safeguard again. Again.
And he's already seen Flick.
Yep.
And maybe this is where SilverName changes plan. And I'm not saying he didn't really have this plan in the early game, but with all this card draw and a lack of Galakron or Krunks coming down, maybe he does just say, okay, well actually, how can I use my cards to just stall out this game?
Right.
Because fatigue is a serious factor, and SilverName has Kartuk Defender, he has a Frost Nova, he's got that Alexstrasza, well he's got both Alexstrazzas, but then he's got the regular Alexstrasza to even push Switz's health down a little bit more if needed.
Yep.
He could formulate a plan here, although of course Amazing Reno can mess with plans, he's casting that spell every turn.
Yeah, and I think just something to keep an eye on is both of those Ray of Frosts just got used, and there is this Deathwing in the future. SilverName to deal with, potentially. It comes all the way down to, like, last threat of the game scenario. Deathwing comes down, SilverName's out of defense.
Yeah, but as long as he holds this cart up for a while,
Yeah,
that deals with Deathwing pretty well.
that's a good point.
Oh, so does that! Imagine.
Okay, that's now officially how I would like this game to end.
What would make us rich?
Again, though, if there's a Frost Nova outside of an exact Galakron draw, with the board full, Swidz just can't really do anything next turn, and I think SilverName wants these turns to happen, right? Where there's
Right.
not a lot changes, apart from Swidz gets closer to fatigue. And the closer he gets to fatigue, pre-Galakron, maybe
If I
Galakron
could
becomes
just
unplayable.
Cast that. If I could... Thought I had more time.
This might be the first truly slow turn of this entire series. I'm struggling to keep up throughout this one with the speed that they've been playing at. Yeah, SilverName going to try and greed his resources for a little bit longer, which is something that I do respect here. He has some face protection from the misdirection, as much as we would love to see it used to send Deathwing in a different direction. So it means at least one attack probably is not going through to his face. He has enough security with the taunts that he has in play that he thinks he can just leave this sort of medium-sized board hanging around. Preserve this
Also,
Frost
well,
Nova for more of a clutch situation.
I think SilverName's probably got a fairly solid read on this Deathwing, hasn't he?
Quite possibly, yeah.
Because what dragon? Like, I think Nozdormu would have been played, as you mentioned, less for maybe the heal, but more for just a big body on board. And outside of that, there aren't really...
Oh, Nazari, you mean?
Oh, sorry, Nazari. Apologies,
Yeah.
Nazari. Yeah. And outside of that, there are just... Oh, it was discovered as well, so yeah, that doesn't matter. But there are a limited amount of dragons that would be saved for that long, right? I think SilverName would be happy to not see a Krunks that turn with that very wide board. I think if that came down to a Krunks AoE buff, SilverName would be in a good
There's no
amount of
Galakron.
trouble.
There's no Galakron in play. Krunks
Oh,
doesn't
true,
do
yeah.
anything. It just draws
Galakron
Galak.
into Krunks. There's the Albatross.
You said like 13 things in that one turn that were impossible, Raven. It was honestly quite
I know,
impressive.
I know. I'm deep in this mage right now where anything's possible.
and hope of your fighting.
13 maybe a slight exaggeration.
It was a slight exaggeration, yeah. But it felt like it.
Oh yeah, it felt like more for it to me, honestly. Finally, though, with the Albatross being drawn, does activate this Alexstrasza, and suddenly SilverName can start being the aggressor on board.
Steel build the Steel Beetle. Get him. Absolutely nutty.
And now we might get to see if SilverName's putting his opponent on Deathwing. 'Cause if you don't think there's a big answer, then you
Wait.
probably just play that Malygos.
Sorry, is SilverName just held his Mally for Mally box, or has he actually just got the read on the Deathwing and that's the reason he's held on to it? It's probably
Surely
the
it's the
latter.
Deathwing, yeah.
It's probably the latter, but I can't help but feel like the Oh! Never mind! Forget about everything
Oh
I'm
my!
saying.
Get out of the game! Reno says no. Oh.
Raven, this is SilverName's world, and we are all just renting from him.
Who are we to question the Highlander mage pick? I was going to say, okay, that was insane, right? Just done. I've said it. But he did have Malygos, Emerald Drake, Frost Nova still.
Yeah.
So SilverName was still in a fantastic position. Do not get me wrong. He also had Malygos now with the Rolling Fireball,
yeah.
which would have just killed it as well. So don't get me wrong. That was a ridiculous spell for Reno to cast, but SilverName had this covered anyway.
Yep.
And we might be nearing the point now with Swidz. No Galakron, no Krunks. Still in the bottom 5.
Wow.
It's just not going to be good enough. It's like playing Rogue without the payoff. It's just not going to be good enough, is it? Can't do anything there, and I think we're about to see the end of Swidz's run.
Yeah, Swidz just needs some help from Amazing Reno right here. That is certainly not it. He needed something a
That
lot
could
more
be.
twisting nether looking. Boom. Malygos' missiles get SilverName
Wow,
over the
11.
line. And it is the Russian player who finds himself marching through to Sunday's proceedings. Ends the game with a puzzle box in his hand, which I'm sure his legions of stream viewers will not forgive him for. But at the same time, when he's here, this man is a monster. He is a competitor, and he wants to win first and foremost. And it's one of the things I absolutely love about him. So what an incredible performance, right? Like, I think either way, the winner of that series, we were going to be talking about them as the potential underdog going into Sunday,
right,
compared to the other names that we had stacked up against them. But SilverName just being the X Factor still, the bracket buster still, just going all the way through to Sunday, I think is an incredible turn of events. But I do want to give a huge commendation for Swidz, because I think he has stepped up every facet of his game from what we saw last year in Grandmasters, and he's someone that I am sort of very quickly becoming a fan of, just because he is so entertaining to watch, just in terms of, you know, his mannerisms and his personality on camera, and also just his slightly outside the box way of thinking in terms of building lineups and tech cards that has really paid out big for him throughout GM this season.
Yeah, I think it would be fair to say, I think a lot of people would have thought Swidz last year, might have felt out of place among the Grandmasters and the rest of the region, but not this time. I think Swidz looks perfect, comfortable in the Grandmasters. I look forward to seeing him next season as well. But again, just congratulations to SilverName. We're going to see Ball Control, Bunny Hopper, Yala, and SilverName in top 4 for tomorrow. I am excited, and honestly, if SilverName takes that victory, what will that even mean? Because it'll just be crazy. SilverName with a legion of fans, I imagine the hype will just be unreal if he takes it. And not only that, but if he takes down a combination of Yala, Bunny Hopper, Bow Control to get there, like, you can't really ask much more from someone, right? If he manages that, then it's an incredible performance.